when I was in my fourth standard, back in my fourth grade. And our family, we used to be up in a city called Indore in Madhya Pradesh. My dad was working there, and my mom was a teacher in the same school I was studying, and it was a good life. We used to enjoy. And my family and me, my dad and mom, they were quite very involved with the church that we used to attend. And I loved our life there. Everything about the church was awesome. All the bhaiyas and didis in the church were awesome. My neighborhood was great. I had a lot of friends, and I still believe. I'm sorry, guys, but I still believe when it comes to celebrating festivals, the North Indian states just do it far better. No offense, but that's the reality. And so I used to love everything about the city of Indore. We used to go out every evening, my family and me, my dad, mom, and me. We would visit some home of the church, some people. So it was a fun life. Now I'm a child. Probably my parents knew all the struggle. I didn't know, but for me it was great as a child. And all this turned around when my family, my parents decided to move down to the city of Cochin, where I am right now, to take care of my grandparents who were old, and they needed care. And so it was definitely a good decision for them to make. I think one of the most noblest decisions that they've taken, in spite of all the risks and the pain that was involved. They still did it. And so we came down to Cochin. Now, this was not a very welcome change for me personally, because everything I liked about my city of Indore, I almost came to hating about the city of Cochin. The people were very different. The culture was different. The church was so different. No offense, but the Sunday school and the VBS was extremely boring. And so a lot of these things just went all around the place. And I couldn't cope up with what was happening. And the worst part, we came into a neighborhood which was like an all girls school neighborhood, because I was surrounded by girls, and I'm like, oh my gosh, there's nobody fun out here. So it was very 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 difficult time. All this began to escalate as I joined in my school in my fifth standard here in Cochin. All of this just escalated. I couldn't adjust with my school. I couldn't adjust with anything or the people or the friends. I quickly noticed that the culture of the students and the culture of teachers, the culture of academics were all different. Now, I'm saying different, okay? It's not that it was bad. Probably I couldn't adjust to it as a child. And in northern states, or from the place I was in, I was very I learned, or my parents, especially my mom, taught me to be free in my interactions with everybody, boys, girls, uncles, aunties, anybody and everybody. And that was very different here in Cochin. I was like, I can't really talk to or interact with girls as like I did back in the city of Cochin, and that was very difficult for me. Now, me being a very socially active guy, that was a very difficult thing. So this went on, but eventually what happened is, now this started affecting my studies. Now I'm the only child to my parents, so all of my energy, my socializing energy, social quotient, came out in school, and I was generally termed as a very hyperactive kid. And so my teachers would catch me talking. The call would be, Reuben, is that you? So that used to happen quite a lot. Now, even more to add to all of this, I had, to be honest, very difficult times with a couple of my teachers in school. Now, for all of you guys who had difficult teachers, I feel you guys, because a couple of teachers made school life very very bad for me, very horrible for me, because the way they would instruct, or the way they would probably not make people understand what's going on, but rather shout at you or punish you unwantedly, made me very afraid of the subject, and especially of the teachers. And so my academics started going down. So now I'm in the bad books of my teachers. I'm going down academically. Constant issues and complaints back in my school. I was not the most handsome looking guy like I am right now back in my school days. And so just kidding, guys. So I had a very bad self-esteem, a very bad self-image, and I literally used to hate myself in many ways. And I remember there was these nights that I would cry and sleep and tell God, You know what? So the toppers in my class, I was like, God, my parents are so nice people. Why would you not give that girl as a daughter or a son to my parents, and give me to that teacher of mine? Anyway, she's cruel, and I deserve to be cruelly treated. All this I would constantly do. Now, one of the most difficult details of my life that I want to share. What initially started as young children, young boys, or as a young boy, exploring my own body, understanding how my body grows, eventually turned out as my opening into pornography, and all of the activities that came along with that. This was a real issue for me. And so this became a cycle, because when I was mad, sad, angry, guilty, frustrated, I would get into this, and then that would cause even more guilt and sadness and anger towards myself, and it became a pattern that I went into over and over, and that's what was happening. But on the brighter side, my life was not too sad, alright guys. On the other side, I became involved with almost every extracurricular activity back in my school, be it sports, be it literary, be it music. Eventually, up in my 11th standard, I became the vice captain of my house, and not the captain because I didn't have good marks, unfortunately, guys. But anyway, and so back in my school, I got exposed to music in my 11th standard when we started going for our inter schools, and that's how my love for music came in. And I started getting exposed into learning instruments. So I started picking up instruments on my own. I went into an academy to learn music. But the academic system at that place was so difficult for me to learn music that the very thing that I was fond of, it became very difficult for me to learn. And you know what this happened? What happened in school began to continue. I came to a place where I'm like, oh my gosh, this is the only thing I was good at, or the thing that I really wanted to make my life on, count my life on, became the thing that was weighing me down. And now I lost my academics. I'm on the verge of losing the music that I really love to do, and confused. But on the bright side, I began to be recognized for music and singing, and leading worship, and I started leading worship in different cities, in different churches in my city, and in different places. So my fellowship friends here all know, they've seen me for quite some while now, singing and singing sessions, leading sessions at Sunday schools, VBSs, youth groups, youth camps, evangelical unions, all of these places. And so this is the one thing that kept me going. Because every time I had to organize an event or lead worship, I had to pull myself through all of these issues and come out and still stand up on the stage and do what I was called to do. I don't know how to explain this, but if you can call him God, or if I call him God, I call him Jesus, but if you can call him God, I remember this person being with me in all of these days. My mother introduced me to Jesus and God in a very young age. She made clear the concept that we are not just living this earth, we have a life after this. We will be living a life after this. And so I was very conscious about this person called God. Owing to that and the fact that he himself used to be with me, I remember all of these times that I've cried that there would be somebody who said, I still love you. This is not who you are. There is more to life than what you are doing and the mess that you're going through. I love you. I need you. I have a plan for you. I have a purpose for you. Don't give up. Get up and keep moving. Get up and keep going. And this, even the cycle of pornography, or even the cycle of constant failures, even the cycle of constant self-pity that I used to go to, I remember the same voice, the same person walking with me, telling me this lovely things. But I remember in 2015, one of these discipleship schools that I attended, I actually met my identity face to face. I knew who I was, what I was, why am I on the face of this earth. Eventually I got into what I really loved. God helped me to get in touch with the right people. I joined a studio called Noise Headquarters here in Cochin. I joined for the course of sound engineering and music production. With a couple of my friends, we started doing small projects, composing, doing short film. Eventually, me and my family, we started off a business. It's not been easy. It still is not easy. But here I am in 2020. having had such a difficult childhood, I guess I didn't have the guts to think of suicide, so I never thought about it. I'm like, no, that's too scary. I'm not going to do that. Suicide is for failures. Failures. I'm not going to do that. But I guess if I was brave enough to do that, I would have attempted that. But I guess I was too much of a scared guy to attempt suicide.
I would like to know this. Like you say, you worked on some music, YouTube production. So, like, we would like to know, like, what did you work on?
What I did are 2 cover songs on YouTube. One is a cover of the famous song named "This Is My Desire." I put a little twist to it, what I call as my own style. And I went all around the place. Now, if I have to give it to somebody else, I have to pay money. I'm like, okay, I don't have that much money. I don't want to, like, this is just a pet project. Do I want to spend so much on it? And so I went on looking for the most simplest softwares. It never worked out. Ultimately, I stumbled on what video editors know as Adobe's Premiere Pro, which probably happens to be a really complex software to work on. But I'm like, okay, let me just do this. So I just sat through like for 5-6 days trying to figure out how the software works, and I kind of came out with the whole thing. And that's how I learned, and that's how I did it.
So I want to ask also, so as a sound engineer and producer, so what are the advices or the tips that you can give like to people who want to work on the same path?
Every corporate is a tough place, and so is the music industry, right? It needs probably a lot more creative juices to come out than just probably a lot of a simple corporate repetitive work. There is a lot more of creative pushing you have to do to yourself to get stuff done. But I would say it's the same. There are opportunities. I would just say, get into it. Don't wait. Get into it. But if you're getting into it, get all in. Like, see, if you're going to work for a company, you're going to prioritize your life around that. Let's say if you're from Cochin and you get a job in Bombay, then you're all out for the job. You would move completely to Bombay. You will get your own apartment. You will get all of your apparels for, get your casual and formal apparels. Your lifestyle changes. You prioritize everything on that job. If this is the industry you want to go to, please do the same. Right? Go all in. Learn all that you can, prioritize your life according to that, find the people, and just get all in. Just don't wait. Okay, I just want to say, don't let this not be a plan B. If you're serious about this, okay, if you want to take it as a hobby, that's fine. But if you're serious about media, music, arts, entertainment, any of this, let this not be a plan B. Let it be your plan A. And I'm telling you, you can survive.
Yeah, so you mentioned like a little bit like in the beginning where you started like to be exposed, to like pornography. Did you at some point open up to someone about it and about what happened, and how did that affect your interaction with people around you?
Yes, I did open up. I was able to. I had mentioned a statement that I always love to say, bringing light into darkness. And when I heard that is when I decided to open up about it. So I had my mentors, my friends, a couple of my friends here on the fellowship who are on the call. I think from the time I was involved with my youth activities, and also I was involved with one of our some of you guys might know something called as Evangelical Union, or UESI, Union of Evangelical Students of India. It's an organization that works amongst college students across India. And so I started getting involved with UESI specifically, and I remember people in UESI started talking about this, or they started mentioning about, you guys might have been going through, so you can kind of speak to us. So that's where I actually started opening up about this and getting help. And to be honest, guys, it's when I opened up I knew that it was not just me. I'm not alone, and that was like the greatest relief for me. I'm like, oh my gosh, finally, it's just not me. It's not just me. That young boys and men frequently, constantly go through the struggle, and we constantly get exposed to this, and so it's a common thing. So we're all in this battle together, and that helped me out. I started becoming a couple of our friends. We started becoming accountable to each other. It's not been the same set of people that I am or I was accountable to throughout the all of history. I mean, some of us eventually became busy in life. We moved on. So, but at every point of time from then on, especially from around 2012, 2013 onwards, I had people. Who I was and I am accountable to. It's easier to be accountable because if you're not, you're gonna struggle in darkness and you're never gonna get out of it. But the moment it's, to be honest, it's so difficult to share it. But the moment you share it, I can only give you one. Maybe a little yucky example, but if you want to vomit, like if you have travel sickness, motion sickness, and you really feel like puking, really feel like vomiting, you don't want to vomit because vomiting is a horrible experience. But the moment you vomit it off, you're like, I feel so good. You just feel that release in that. You just feel comfortable, and it's exactly like that. The moment you just blurt it out, you're free. Okay, you're just set free. You're like, oh man, I'm so glad I told this to you. And so if it's just if it's somebody you trust, pray with that person, and kind of give positive affirmations that you can do this, you can get out of this.